Hello. Welcome, Dr. Yusuke.
Hello. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. Fine. How about you? Are you okay? Thank you very much for inviting me to be a presenter today.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Good afternoon, Vinod sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. Dubey. Good afternoon, Dr. Ida. Welcome to
Good
India.
afternoon.
Welcome to ISAGA.
Thank you.
We'll be glad to listen to you today. And I think we are seeing each other after 5 years.
Yeah, right.
We met in Kyoto, of course.
Yeah. And also in Thailand and also other ISAGA conferences. Yeah.
Yes, and I remember you were there very busy attending to us and all the events out there at Ritsumeikan University.
Yep.
I suspect we will have at least 200 or more listeners. We've had about 300
Okay.
in other days.
Okay.
Most of them will be listening. Our smaller internal panel will be about a dozen faculty members. Dr. Upendra Dhar, the Vice Chancellor, and of course, the chairperson of the conference, ISAGA conference, he'll be joining us.
Okay.
Then others also will be there. We probably will have about 9 or 10 who also will be here as co-panelists. They are the ones you can see, and they can see you as well. Other panelists, other listeners, maybe 200 odd of them, some of them on YouTube as well. You will not be able to see them, but they can hear you.
Okay. Okay.
Disaster management is an unusual topic for us, and I think all of us will be very keen to absorb the contents.
Okay, yeah, I think I have to explain about disaster, community-based disaster management first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah. By the way, can you hear me clearly? Is it no problem about my voice? Is it okay?
Oh, quite okay.
Okay.
What you do is maybe you can speak a little slowly.
Okay. Okay.
Everywhere, I mean, if I were to come to another country, like even Europe or Japan or even Thailand, I speak very slowly so that every word is heard.
Okay. Okay.
That should be fine.
Okay. Okay.
I think the voice is clear. There's no problem about it.
Thank you. Okay.
The program will be recorded, and later on, I'll send you the recording as well, or the link to it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. But do you share this video to the public or other people?
Dr. Dubey, it's on YouTube.
Yes, please, you can check now, sharing.
No, not that. What Dr. Tobata is asking is this video.
Video, yes.
Okay. Public?
Also live telecast on YouTube.
Okay.
Dr. Shukla, good afternoon.
Yes, sir, we have. Good afternoon, sir.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Sir, I will introduce our panelist with you, Dr. Yusuke. Dr. Rajiv Shukla, Director of Management.
Okay. Good
Dr.
afternoon.
Amit Gupta is Director of Institute of Technology and Science.
Okay.
Dr. Namrata Jain, she is Professor in Management. Dr. Mandal, Dr. T.K. Mandal, He is also the professor of management and head of the School of Law.
Okay. See. Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
What is the time there? Is it 6:30 now?
Yes, almost 6:30.
Okay.
It's
And the temperature should be somewhere around 3-4 degrees.
No, not such cold, but 10 or like that, I think.
Maybe
From today, it's
started
getting cold.
snowing already?
Sorry.
Has it started?
In the north part, yes, like Hokkaido, yes, but not here. I'm
Yes.
in Osaka, but yeah, not
Okay.
no snow.
Sensei Hamada keeps sharing his photos of snow and cold.
Yeah, he is
Very
in
often.
Hokkaido. Yeah, right.
He's in Hokkaido.
Yes, right.
Asahikawa, something he said.
Right. It's very cold. Yeah,
Very
area.
cold.
Yeah.
We have a couple of minutes to go. Dr. Guru Prasad has joined us. Welcome, sir. I think you have to unmute.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Dr. Yusuke, we have with us Dr. Ken Guru Prasad ji. He is the director of Institute of Science.
Okay. Good afternoon. Nice to meet you.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Toyoda, you will be the 5th speaker in our webinar series.
I see. How many speakers do you have in this series?
Well, we have another 5 or 6 already ready and confirmed. And we hope to have perhaps maybe 20 more or so by the time the conference begins in September.
I see.
And I certainly hope that you and a number of your fellow members from JASAG will be in India in September next year.
I do hope so. Yeah.
So that you can see everybody whom you're seeing on the screen, they'll all be there.
Yeah.
Everybody you see on the screen except me, everybody is there in Indore.
Yes, I can see. Yeah.
Dr. Mandal, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Mandal is also championing Department of Happiness and research in the happiness area.
I see. It's really good. I mean,
Good evening, Tauda-san.
good evening. Good afternoon. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Good afternoon, sir. Dr. Dar. Dr. Dar, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
So our guest speaker has joined.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Jigyasu can start then.
Yes, sir. Okay. Today's guest and speaker of webinar, Dr. Yusuke Toyoda, Associate Professor at College of Policy Science, Ritsumeikan University, Japan. Dr. Upinder Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Sri Vaishnava Vishwavidyalaya. Dr. Vinod Damlekarji, Gaming and Simulation Expert and Founder Mentees. Respected Dr. Santosh Dhar. Today's panelist, Dr. Ken Guru Prasad ji, Director, Institute of Science. Dr. Rajiv Shukla ji, Director of Sri Vaishnava School of Management. Dr. T.K. Mandal. Dr. Namrata Jain Madam. Dr. Namit Gupta ji, Director, SVITS. And all the ISAGA members, head of institutes, head of the departments, faculty members, research scholars, and my dear students. It gives me immense pleasure to extend very warm greetings to all of you in the 5th webinar of the series organized by Sri Vaishnava Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, India, as a prelude to ISAGA 2021 52nd Annual Conference of International Simulation and Gaming, which is going to be held at Shri Vaishnav Vidyapit Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, between 6th to 10th September 2021. The theme of the conference is Gaming, Simulation and Innovations, Challenges and Opportunities. This event is the first ISAGA International Conference in India. Now, I invite Dr. Upinder Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor of the University and also the Conference Chairman of ISAGA 2021 for the opening remark. Sir.
Good afternoon from Indian time. At the outset, I would like to welcome our guest speaker today, Mr. Toyodo. And I can't see him. Is he around?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Although he is internal to ISAGA. Say we, as all of us know, that ISAGA had to happen here in India in 2020, but because of the pandemic, we could not do it. So next year, that is 2021, we'll be hosting it in the month of September. Mr. Toyodo is a widely known professional in the gaming and simulation, and his deliberation will be beneficial to all of us. And I'm sure that by the end of the webinar, we will have some takeaways for our own professional practice. We, in fact, since we could not do ISAGA this year, therefore we had started a series of such webinars. And so far, I think 6 or 7 webinars have already been done very successfully. And we are happy to welcome Mr. Toyodo today, who will be conducting the next seminar. So not standing between our guest speaker and all those who have joined as participants. I think number is already on my screen. I can see 169, which will be increasing over the period of time. So once again, welcome Toyodo, and over to you, Jigyasu. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Friends, today is the 5th webinar of this series, and the resource person is Dr. Yusuke Toyoda from Japan. Dr. Yusuke Toyoda is an associate professor of the College of Policy Science, Ritsumeikan University, Japan. He is also working as Deputy Director, Office of International Affairs and Director, International Center at Osaka Ibaraki Campus. He is the member of Institute of Disaster Mitigation for Urban Cultural Heritage and member of Research and Development Institute of Regional Information, Ritsumeikan University, Japan. He utilizes simulation and gaming for study and practice on community-based disaster management and disaster education. I am delighted to welcome Dr. Yusuke Toyoda. We are grateful to you for providing your time for the 5th webinar of this special series. Now, I invite Dr. Yusuke Toyoda to deliver the webinar on simulation and gaming for community-based disaster management.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. And it's really honor for me to be here as presenter here. Let me share my screen. Okay, please wait a moment. Okay, so today, okay, by the way, again, my name is Toyoda from Japan. And as he introduced already, basically, I utilize simulation gaming for community-based disaster management and also disaster education. So today, I'd like to talk about it, especially with not only conceptual, something conceptual, but also some application to the real experience. Okay. Okay, so this is a table of contents. I think that the majority of you are not familiar with community-based disaster management, although India is one of the disaster-prone countries, but I think you are from a variety of specialties. So that I'd like to introduce the importance of community-based disaster management. And next, I'd like to talk about simulation gaming for disaster management, how simulation and gaming can contribute to disaster management. And finally, in number 3, I'd like to show some example on the simulation and gaming. Okay, first, the importance of community-based disaster management. I'm not sure whether you have experienced disaster, but if you are in India, I think like cyclones or some other disasters you may be familiar with. But we know that the importance of community. What I mean community here is that residents in a certain geographically defined areas, often defined officially by public administrations like community associations and so on. So that community means geographically defined areas, residents in these areas. And why they're important? Because they are the first responders, and they are the one who know the best about their living areas. And also their mutual help are essential for helping people. So I'd like to explain one by one first. This is 2 pictures of a great earthquake in Japan in 1995. The epicenter was near Kobe. I'm not sure whether you are familiar with Japan, but it's near, I'm in Osaka now, and it's near from Osaka. It's in Kobe. So you can see the pictures here. It is the pictures in Kobe in 1985. So at the left, right-hand side, you can see the highway, and it's totally collapsed. And also at the left-hand side, it's a huge earthquake. And also it caused a big fire here. And if we go on the ground, there are the houses totally collapsed by the earthquake shaking. And this is one data from this earthquake. This graph shows if you are buried alive under your house. For example, here, there are the houses, there are your houses. And it happened around 6 a.m. So you were sleeping. I'm not sure you, but many people were sleeping. And many people were buried alive under their houses. So how could you evacuate from your house? So about 1/3 of them evacuated by themselves. And only 1.7% was rescued by a rescue team. In this case, firefighters, or in case of Japan, we have the Japan's self-defense forces, but only 1.7% in this earthquake. And by family, about 30%. And what I want you to focus on here is by friend and neighbor. It is also really important because almost 30% of them were rescued by their neighbors or friends. Why rescue team could rescue so less people? It is because they were also victims. And of course, they are, they hire people to cope with their, daily situations. So they, in case of a huge or mega earthquake, they cannot tackle with this. And also, if we want to ask for help from outside, it took time for them to reach to the affected area. So that actors in the community was very important. It can be seen here also. This is another graph. You can see that here, this earthquake happened around at 6 a.m. on 19th January. This is the first day of the earthquake. And you can see how many people were rescued by firefighters of Kobe City. And black means survivors. And white means they were dead when they were found. So on the first day, majority of them were survivors. But on the second day and third day, about 20 to 30% were survivors. At the same time, others were unfortunately died. And from the fourth day, almost all of the victims or people buried alive were killed by earthquakes. So that we have to rescue as soon as possible. So that first responders are very important, and they were not rescue teams. This is different for maybe other disasters like tsunami, but in case of earthquake, it was true. So that community is really important. So this is the first one. why community is important? Because they were the first responders just after big earthquakes or big disasters. And second, they know the most about their living areas. Of course, I am a specialist about disaster management, but I don't know well about each community because they have their uniqueness in their communities. So that if we want to do some policies or project related to disaster management, it is very important to find or to get local knowledge that is unique to each community. So it is said that knowledge integration is really important. So we have 3 types of knowledge, especially for disaster management. First, scientific knowledge. This is, many of you know well about it. And local knowledge that usually many experts do not know but local residents know about it. And also experiential or traditional knowledge in some cases. It is about their traditional wisdom to cope with disasters or their past experience of the disasters. So effective community-based disaster management can be attained in the overlaps among these 3 types of knowledges. To do so, we have to integrate this knowledge. So that I'd like to explain one process of integration, meaning the process of risk management. This process is composed of 3 steps. First, risk assessment, next, risk communication, and finally, risk management. I'd like to show you one example. So that risk assessment means that we assess or find risks in your community. So this is just example here. We have some individual risks. For example, some residents have some handicap. Or if you have foreign residents, they may not be familiar with native language. Or elderly, usually they are the vulnerable, and also kids or children. They often need some help for disasters. And also, we have also some other hard risk like vulnerable houses or block wall, which could be collapsed or destroyed by the earthquake. So that first, we have to assess these kinds of risk. So this is the first step. And next, risk communication. We share these kinds of risk, and in group, we discuss, okay, we found or we have this kind of risks. And finally, we decide what should be done for reduce or eradicate these kinds of risk. So this is risk communication. And final risk management. So just we implement what we have discussed. So these are the process of risk management. And in this process, scientific knowledge, local knowledge, and experiential or traditional knowledge can be integrated, because here we can collect local knowledge, and in the risk communication with the discussion among residents and also experts, we can share our knowledge. And finally, we can decide what kind of managing project what we can do. And later, as I will explain, simulation gaming could be one tool for risk assessment and also risk communication. So this is a tool for promote this process. Later, I will explain in detail. And for, the last one is that about mutual help for crisis management cycle. This is a crisis management cycle. Here, we have crisis like mega earthquake. And after that, we have to respond. For example, evacuate to the evacuation shelter. And in a shelter, we have to manage shelters, especially in Japan. Shelter should be managed by communities. And recovery. Yeah, if we focus on residents' opinions, we have to make visions for the future community. And we have to prepare for the future disaster so that we have to mitigate risks, like making disaster maps to make community safer and so on. And at the same time, we have to prepare for the future risk, future earthquake or future disaster, like establishing systems to help the vulnerable and so on. So that in this process, in each process or cycle, communities is a really important actor, one of the essential actors to manage crisis. So for this aim, we need a coping capacity to cope with disasters, and also adaptive capacity, which is really needed for, when we are faced with some situation that we didn't expect, but we have to overcome the situation. So that community needs to equipped with these capacities, coping capacity and adaptive capacity. So that here, as I explained, importance of community for disaster management are basically three things, three items, three reasons. The first, responders, rescue, evacuation, and also shelter management. And the other one who knows the most about their living areas that is very unique in each community. And also mutual help is very important. So that in case of applying or utilizing simulation gaming, one way that this first responder is one of the topic or themes for simulation gaming. So that if we play the simulation gaming to the residents, they understand that they are the first responders, so they have to prepare for that. And also, as I explained, knowledge integration is important. And as I explained after this, it could be attained by simulation gaming. And also coping and adaptive capacity could be also cultivated by simulation gaming. So I'd like to explain more about simulation gaming. And as the MC said, this is the fifth webinar, and previous speakers already explained about simulation gaming more conceptually. So I'd like to apply their thinking to disaster management. So this is a process of simulation gaming for disaster management, but this is very simplified. If we have designed or played the simulation gaming, you know that we have other things to do, but this is simplified for you to understand easily. So let's check from the left-hand side. So designing simulation gaming, of course, it is a starting point. And you can see the dashed line here. Upper side of the dashed line means game world, and lower side is a real world. So that when you want to design simulation gaming, we have to transfer some knowledge or some lessons so that we can embed some scientific knowledge and experiential knowledge into simulation gaming. Or precisely speaking, embed this knowledge into simple model in the simulation gaming so that players or participants can easily experience what may happen or what happened in the past disasters. So in the simulation gaming, they can experience this kind of disasters with safe environment. But one of the main characteristics or strength of simulation gaming is role play. So that your residents, you are, let's say, Mr. A, for example. But in the game simulation, you can be the leader of community. So that based on your role, you can cope with disasters in the game and you can get some lessons. Or you can be anyone, in fact, for example, governor, mayors could be, or whatever, whoever. So that role play is really important. But when I focus on community-based disaster management, you will be residents with some conditions like you are the injured or you are the leaders and so on. And finally, you can get some experience here and acquire lessons through experiences, and you can learn from each other among players, or you can learn from the experience of other players, or you can learn by knowledge integration, and finally reflect what you have learned in the real world. And especially for the community-based disaster management, you are residents. So as I said, you have local knowledge or experiential knowledge so that when you play the simulation gaming, you can learn scientific knowledge and experiential knowledge of other areas. At the same time, you have local knowledge and experiential knowledge, so that in the game or after the game, you can combine two knowledges in your mind. So in the game, as I said, you can experience some knowledge, and you can experience some disaster, and of course, you will be faced with some difficulties, or you learn some lessons, or you found that, okay, you cannot do it. You cannot do anything about it. So this is risk. So that in the gameplay, you can assess risks, capturing your individual mental model on risk. You understand that, okay, in the game, when we are faced with disasters, or we can do it like this one, but we cannot do it, or we did it like this way, but we should have done like this way. So you can get some lessons. And after the game, we have, this is the most, not most, but one of the most important part of simulation gaming, debriefing. Here, you can, as I said, share what you have experienced in the game and discuss with other players. And here, this is risk communication, sharing information, knowledge, or your experience. You can construct shared mental model on risk in group. And another important thing that, as I said here, you can get some knowledge in the game. But of course, this is the experience about the game, in the game. And what will happen in the reality, in the real world, would be different. So that reflection is really important. Okay, what you have learned in the game, simulation gaming. And we have to assume that if this happens in the real community, how do you think the result? Will it be the same or similar or totally different? For example, in the game, you learned that, okay, no one will help you. So how about in the real community? If some disaster happened, do you have anyone help you? If not, you have to think what you should do. So that, of course, experience in the game and the real society are different, but still, you can learn some lessons and reflect this lesson to your community so that you can discuss what you can do in your community. And finally, you can implement risk management. And in the debriefing, I'd like to point out one thing, two things. One is what I have explained already. In the debriefing, we transfer some knowledge, or players reflect what they have learned to their real community and also share knowledge. And another thing that in debriefing, we have to calm participants down. In some cases, I have never experienced, but it would be possible that in the game, you are a victim and you need some help, but some player didn't help you. You may have a bitter feeling against him. And even after simulation gaming, you keep this bitter feeling, and the relationship with him will be destroyed because of simulation gaming. But we must avoid this kind of situation. So that we have to explain that what happened in the game is happened because it is a role play. So this person behaved because he or she had some role and they had to follow some rules. It is not the decision of himself or herself, but this is a decision based on the role. So they are totally different. So in the game, they are players, but after the game, they return to participants. We have to keep it in mind. Otherwise, simulation gaming could give a negative impact to the real society. So we have, especially for the disaster management and also other topics, we have to, as a game facilitators, we have to always keep it in mind. And another thing about gaming simulation is that simulation gaming is a tool, of course, about what to do. So you can learn what to do under this situation. But especially for the disaster case, what we have experienced may never happen in the reality. some situations will be different. Some conditions, of course, will be different. So that we have to be flexible so that simulation gaming can be a tool to develop not only what to do, but also how to think. Okay, if we have this kind of situation, we should think like this way and cope with this situation. So we can develop how to think as well. So it's kind of mental training, not skill training, but also we can train our mental model or mental thinking, mental aspect. This is also important for flexibility and also application for the participants to apply lessons learned to other situations. So here, as I explained, risk assessment and at least risk assessment and risk communication can be attained in the process of simulation gaming, and also knowledge integration could be also attained by the system process of simulation gaming. And another aspect is that I'm sorry for the small letters, but they are the main functions of simulation gaming for disaster management. So at the left-hand side, you can see the main function of simulation gaming. We have other functions, of course, but I focus only on some functions for disaster management. What I've explained from here is some of them overlap with what I have explained already. But in the game, simulation gaming, you can have virtual experience with safe environment, so that in the game, you have possibilities to die, but of course, in the reality, you are safe. You can make mistakes, you can fail, or you can, let's say, die. But still, this is important because you can learn from mistakes or failure. And also role play, as I said. So you can be other people. Basically, in the reality, it's hard. It is very hard for us to think from the different person, viewpoint of a different person. But in the gaming simulation, you can be some person. And also knowledge integration. And also, as I said, trial and error is also important. So in the gaming simulation gaming, you can try and finally find that, okay, this is not good, but you can try again in the gaming simulation gaming. And here, right-hand side, they are expected, some components expected to be promoted or attained by simulation gaming. So virtual experience and role play could promote collective action, because in a virtual experience, they can learn that individual ability has limitation. So we have to cooperate among or with other residents. And also by this virtual experience, and also by understanding the perspective of other people, you can get more effective and efficient decision making. And by knowledge integration, of course, sharing knowledge can be attained. And also you can get narratives. Narrative means that it's a shared memory. So in the simulation gaming, you can have common memory of experience, like experiencing disasters or evacuating from a disaster safely. So this common narrative can be attained. And based on this narrative, you can think or you can consider what to do. And of course, based on that one, you can solve some problems. And also, as I explained in a debriefing, you can reflect critically on what you have learned in the real society. So they are the main functions of simulation gaming for disaster management. So they are the very important part. And from now, I'd like to explain how we can apply this simulation gaming functions or process for community-based disaster management. But what I have explained here is a kind of ideal concept. And of course, it is often that we cannot do all. So when I was thinking about to explain about case, I have experienced about community-based disaster management, of course. But to make it simple to explain to the listeners who are not familiar with this topic, I'd like to talk about disaster education with simulation gaming. because it's more simple to explain. And also, I think that you can grasp the importance of simulation gaming for disaster management. So what I will introduce to you is evacuation simulation training, EST. And this was originally developed based on the experience of a real disaster. Like, as I explained, the great Hanshin Awaji earthquake in 1995 in Japan. And also I developed for community-based disaster management, but now I apply it to university students for disaster education. So please imagine that you are the player of this game. So the goal of you is to reach the evacuation shelter after a mega earthquake from your house. Please imagine that. So the process of the game is really simple. I randomly assign some roles to you that evacuees might be expected to face in earthquake evacuation. Later I will explain a bit, but for example, you are injured by the earthquake because you have some furniture falling down under your body, so you got injured like that. And after that, you evacuate from your house. However, you will encounter some situations on your way to the evacuation shelter. First, I'd like to explain what kind of roles and situations we have. And here, they are the situations, sorry. Okay, here. This is one example of role. So you are buried alive under your house, and you cannot start evacuation because you are under the house. You need 3 residents to rescue you, then you can start evacuation. And also you remember that the leader of community said the evacuation shelter, in this case, evacuation shelter was the place indicated by X, it's here. So you can see red star, your house is here and you have to evacuate here. And as you can see here, this is a map and it's in Japanese, you cannot read, but at least you know that this is not map of community, but this is a map of university building. Because we played this game in a university building, assuming that this is the community area. This is the 3rd floor of the building, but please assume that this floor is your community area. And for example, you can see classrooms. There are houses. So you have to evacuate from your house to this evacuation shelter. So this is a game. I did it for the university students. And you can see here numbers. So you are here and you have to evacuate to your evacuation shelter. And if you want to pass number 1 here, you have to check situation number 1. And you will have something, while you may not have anything. So you can see that here, this is a university buildings and they are university students. And they are evacuating, or maybe they are looking for someone missing. And this is a classroom where they discussed after this game. So this is the outline of this game. And it can create situations similar to real disaster condition. It is, and I have to say that it is not a training for individuals, but for community as a whole. Because, for example, if you get this this role, in fact, you are not injured, or maybe sometimes you know where to evacuate, but sometimes you are asked that you have to misunderstand evacuation site. So you have to go to another place. It is instructed by the law. So that in this case, for yourself, this is not individual training because you know already, but you have to behave differently. But what we can find or we can get from this game is that as a community, we can know what will happen in our community as a whole. Because as I said, yeah, you have to go to another site, for example, and this may happen in the real situation. So that we can know what will happen and we can think what we should do for this situation. And there are the situations and rules of evacuation simulation training. So as I have explained, block walls fell down, the street is shut down and you cannot pass. Or maybe sometimes because of an aftershock, a house collapsed. If you are alone, you got stuck by the collapsed house, so you cannot move without rescue. Or some rules, it's about initial situation. You are fine without furniture falling down, or maybe you are injured by furniture falling down, or you are buried under your collapsed house, so you cannot start evacuation, or you are the community leader. And also about knowledge, you do not know the location of an evacuation shelter, so you don't know where to evacuate. Or in some cases, you have heard that you have heard by chance that a neighbor said the location of evacuation site is A, but in fact, this is wrong information. Or some residents have correct information. Evacuation shelter is B, so that we can know that some said A, but others said B. And in fact, this situation happened in the real disaster situations. So that, as I said, it can create situations similar to the real disaster conditions. So you can experience as a whole of the community what will happen. So that, as I said previously, I explained about the process and also main functions of simulation and gaming for community-based disaster management. But as I also said that this is the ideal situation. So in this case, of course, we played it to university students. So we have no local knowledge and also traditional knowledge, but we embedded some scientific knowledge to the gaming simulation based on the past disaster experience. And also some students might have their experiential knowledge, but we are not sure. But anyway, so that knowledge integration is limited, but still we can do it. And of course, we did it for disaster education. So risk management cannot be done here, but at least we can have risk assessment, gaining personal and also collective experiences in the game, and also risk communication, sharing the risk, and also discussing and sharing the risk that they have experienced, and also discussing suggestions to reduce or eradicate these kinds of risks. And I'd like to show two cases. The first case is about for Japanese students. We did it for Japanese students in Japan. And also another case is for international students. And especially for the Japanese students, as we had time, we did two rounds, meaning that they played game one time and finished risk communication. And after that, we had a lunch break. And during the lunch break, I, as a facilitator, changed some situations and also changed some evacuation systems based on their suggestions, so that they suggested something in the first round. And in the next round, they can experience disaster or earthquake evacuation again based on their suggestions. And they can learn some knowledge that I will explain from now on. So that here, as I have shown here, so we did it in university buildings, and of course, they are not much serious, of course, because they know that this is not real disaster. But still, I can say that they learned much from this game. So this is a result of the evacuation simulation training for Japanese students. So the first round, so this is risk assessment, what risk they found during the game. So of course, necessity of reinforcing houses. And also many people say that finding out where other residents live is really a problem, because they didn't know where residents or where other players were. So they had to seek for them. And also communicating with residents on normal days for rescuing the buried alive is important. Quickly finding the injured and the need to move in a group and so on. And based on these experiences they discussed in this communication, and there are the suggestions based on the challenge that they had to find out where other residents live. So that they suggested that sharing information about where residents live is really important. And in the next round, as I said, I applied this suggestion to the situation, so that I told to some players where other players or other residents live. I mean, where they were first, and played the second time. And based on that, they found that it was not enough to merely make a resident housing map, because all people sought to evacuate after the disaster. So if they went out the house, there were no residents. Mean that, of course, after the disaster, they started to evacuate somewhere. So that even though they went to some houses, no one was there. Of course, if they were buried alive, they can find them there. But if not, they cannot find them. So that they say that a note could be attached after evacuation to indicate where they were at home or not. So when they evacuate, they should attach some paper at the entrance that, okay, we evacuated already, so that they don't have to search for anymore. So that these experiences and also suggestions can be attained by simulation gaming. And what I would like to say here is that, in fact, these suggestions were conducted in the real community in Japan. But we didn't give this kind of information, and they didn't know this kind of things. But by simulation gaming, they could get some experience or lessons and suggested some measures that are the same as the real community that they experienced from the real past disaster experience. I forgot to explain that. Sorry. Okay, they are the Japanese students, but they are not interested in disaster management, because I did it in class of simulation gaming, so that they are interested in politics or environment and so on. So they are not familiar with disaster management, but still by this game simulation, they could have the similar situation, similar suggestions and experiences that real residents experienced based on the real, disasters. And this is for international students. And I want to say that, yeah, they could also have similar experience. Some students were not familiar with disaster at all, because some students come from disaster-free countries, or basically, at least they don't know well about earthquakes. But in the game, they experienced that I walked alone and got injured, which needs more persons to help me. So their suggestions were then, and making sure where neighbors live and members of community by emergency contact list making and screaming if you can. So that, yeah, this is the same or similar suggestion that the Japanese student did it here. So that what I want to say that, yeah, even though we did it in university buildings, but still they could experience, and also they could give similar or same suggestions to the community. So here, this is a summary of the case studies. So as I said, yeah, these main functions could be utilized for disaster management, but this is ideal. So in my case, also some cannot be done, but still virtual experience and also role play could promoting collective actions and their decision making, and also sharing knowledge. And also in this case, some students experienced something unique, and they had to share with other residents. And finally, they got common knowledge that they experienced as a community. And also, especially for Japanese students, they had a try and error, learning process, and they experienced problem solving and also critical reflection. So that here, as I said, I have experienced the importance of community-based disaster management, and also how simulation gaming can contribute to disaster management theoretically or conceptually, based on its process and also main functions. And finally, even though this was a case for disaster education, I experienced how simulation gaming could do for disaster management in practice. And so this is basically a brief explanation of about my topic. And I'd like to add something that if I have time, I wanted to explain more so that I still have around 3 minutes. So I'd like to explain more about simulation gaming. If you listen to my explanation about evacuation simulation training, you might feel that this is similar to just disaster training. So that I'd like to explain what the difference is, special difference between this kind of simulation gaming and also just training is we have to focus on the important components of simulation gaming that are role, model and simulation, and rule and objective. First, our role is that here we can I can explain based on this diagram. So this is you can see the actor. It could be reality or it could be virtual. Reality means that you can join some training as you are. Virtual means that you can be a different person. And situation means that where you play the game or training, reality means that it's a real situation. And virtual is, it's really virtual. So for example, if both are reality for the training, this is OJT, on-the-job training. Because basically for the on-the-job training, you are the newcomers of the some company or new workers, and you experience, you go to one section, one and another, and these sections are real one, real business. So that this is OJT is located here. Actor is virtual, situation is reality, is experience of wheelchair. I'm not sure your countries, but at least in Japan, we have a chance to experience wheelchair. So you are, of course, you can walk by yourself, but you can sit on a wheelchair and move around buildings or some communities. And you can know that if you have to walk with wheelchair, okay, we have this gap here, so it's really hard to go and so on. So in this case, you don't need wheelchair, in fact, but in this training, you behave as if you needed wheelchair, but situation is real situation, real building or real community. And actor is reality, but situation is virtual, is disaster training. So that basically in the disaster training, we assume that you are yourself, and but situation will be virtual. And actor and situation are virtual. One way that playing house, I'm not sure, but when you are children, maybe you have experienced that in a park, you assume that, okay, this is a house, this is a kitchen, this is a workplace, and you did play with your friends. And I think that simulation gaming is located here, highlighted by the red dashed line here. So that sometimes, yeah, it could be simulation gaming, could be very similar to just disaster training, but with some role, it could be more than disaster trainings. And also, as I explained, debriefing is very important. So that based on the debriefing, you can understand what will happen and also discuss, understand other perspective of other people. So that basically this aspect differentiate between evacuation simulation training and also other, say, normal or regular disaster trainings. Okay, so this is the end of my presentation. And I hope that you can understand even a bit about community-based disaster management and how simulation gaming can contribute to this topic. Okay, thank you very much for your kind attention.
Yes, it was an excellent session. So we will have brief question answer session now. Yes, Jigyasu.
Yeah, Dr. Yosuke, it was a very nice presentation. And just one query is that when we change the role, that means interaction of the role, it can be implemented individually or in a group.
But the role.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can you repeat? Can you repeat?
Yeah,
Role is
actually,
individual.
you shared about the role play. So in this game, individual role play is
Okay.
applicable, or it can also be played in a group.
Okay. This should be in group. Okay. Let me share again. So yeah, if you have a, let's say, some mobile phone application or computer software, it can make it individual game. But this is basically group game. I mean, you have to play this game with other people so that we can understand. For example, you are resident here and you have also other residents here, so that not only experiencing some situations, but also you can learn lessons from with interaction with other people. So for example, you are buried alive here, you need some other residents. So we have to get some help. But we have only one resident safe here, but he cannot do anything because I'm buried alive under the house. That is very heavy. You cannot do it. So you cannot, lift it up. So you have to get help from other residents. And also some people, students learned that based on this one is, where was it? Sorry. Okay, here I walked alone and got injured, which needs one person to help me. So in this case, if they walked together with other people, they could be safe. So that, yeah, in fact, it could be also played individually, but basically we intend to play in group.
Okay.
So that, yeah, social learning is that one. So you can get lessons from the experience of other people or behavior of other people as well. So they are really important.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Guru Prasad, sir?
Yes. See, you gave the simulation of earthquake in Kobe, right? And of course, in Japan, earthquakes are very common. And this simulation, when you say integration of scientific knowledge, it will always depend upon the type of the disaster you are taking it as a model.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, and taking this scientific knowledge, mostly, like for example, in the model which you presented, it was the communication between the people which played more important role than anything else. Is that right?
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I think, yes, scientific knowledge depends on disasters. I think in some cases, in some type of, for some knowledge, yes. Because scientific knowledge for earthquake and also scientific means that not only natural science, but also human science or social sciences. And of course, it depends. But in case of, for example, flood and earthquake, they are basically different because for the earthquake, we don't know when it will happen. But in case of flood, we usually know before.
Yes.
But in case of earthquake, we don't know when it will happen. So that behaviors or what we should do are totally different. But something common also we have, such as psychological things, like how we can motivate people to stock some tools for disaster management. So that, scientific knowledge is really dependent on disasters. But so that in this case, experts should bring this knowledge for model making in the simulation game. It is really important. And next question was, what was it? Sorry. Okay, yes, interaction was important. Yes, exactly, yes. And as I showed here, yeah, experiencing disaster management. The important thing is here that not experiencing disaster, but also experiencing disaster management. So managing disaster should be experienced in the simulation gaming. So in some cases, it could be individual preparation, but also especially here, what I explained here, mutual help is really important, so that this mutual help could be experienced in this simulation gaming. So that here, disaster management, in this case, you can change it to, in this case, you can change it to the mutual help. So that this kind of interaction and also communication was really important. So they understand that, okay, we should do like this in case of disasters. And also we should have done, or we should have prepared like this way before disaster striking in the game simulation, so that we can reflect these lessons in the real community, and you can implement, yeah, this kind of things.
Yeah, just one more question. That
Yes.
do you repeat these games? Just like we have repeated fire drills in a certain frequency. In the same manner, do you repeat these games with a particular community?
Okay, thank you very much. Ideally, we should repeat with a different situation. For example, here we have some situations, but this is just one situation. And what I want to point out is that, yeah, we have a real disaster often, but we can experience disaster only one type. I mean that if we have earthquake in the morning, its effect or influence must be different from earthquake happening in the afternoon. So that if morning, maybe you are at house, but maybe in the afternoon, you will be at your workplace. So the situation will be totally different. So we have to repeat with the different situations. So that we did it for Japanese student cases. And ideally, it should be done. But in fact, I played it in the community, but only one time, because they have many things to do, let's say. Yeah, and yeah, they did it already, evacuation. And they had some lessons learned, and they found that, okay, they should do it. And next, their interest moved to another thing, like about evacuation shelter management. So that ideally we have to continue, but in the reality, it's not such easy, because they have many things to do in the community first. But yeah, if you want to do it repeatedly in community, it's ideal, and you can make it make community safer and safer by repeating the simulation game.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Toido,
yes,
Professor Guru Prasad is Professor of Life Science and is Director of Science in our university. He has worked earlier, he has worked in Japan for 2 years.
Yeah, yeah, I just wanted to mention that in Kobe only, Dr. Koyo, but not when the earthquake happened. Before that, I was in you have seen the area Port Island in Kobe.
Okay, Port Island. Yes, I have been there.
Yeah. So I used to stay in Port Island in Kobe.
I see.
Where the university has the house for foreigners.
I see.
Yeah.
In Kobe, we have many facilities for you to learn about earthquake, experiencing earthquake shaking on the other, other lessons.
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Mandal?
I have a query.
Yeah. Can I?
Yeah, next question, please. Dr. Mandal.
Yeah. Toyoda-san, I have 2 points. The first one is both are questions. The first one is with an example. Dr. Guruprasad just touched upon the fire drill. In fact, in India, particularly in manufacturing industries, we have what is known as mock drills, mandated by regulations. So there we have the situations like fire, some leakage, be it gas or some fluids, or even a major accident. These are all simulated, and only the key people are informed about the mock drill, the timing and date, etc. Apart from the actors. So once the drill happens, the responses of all the stakeholders, all the concerned people, which includes the fire fighting machinery, the healthcare machinery like ambulance response, security, the responses from the responsible persons, and the common workers, the common people, or even the people from the vicinity, that is the community. It even extended to, in fact, what I've seen into the schools, so which are part of the manufacturing premises. So how do the students taken care of? How are the students taken care of in case of such a situation? Of course, administrative machinery response also is observed. So what is done? It's a continuous process, a renewed process. Every time there's a feedback. There's somebody who notes down what are the lacunae, what are the drawbacks, who all did not respond well, and what could be improved in case such a disaster happens. And one is supposed to take care of in the next drill, which is not announced publicly, and so on and so forth. So my question related to this is, do you consider this also a sort of SNG for disaster management in a manufacturing setup?
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Yes, I said absolutely yes. In fact, simulation gaming, I didn't write here, but we have a simplified model of our society. So I think as long as we can make this kind of model, we can apply simulation gaming for our society. So that, as you said, yeah, different kinds of disaster management, or also simulation gaming can be applied to business administration or this crisis management for business, like supply chain management or whatever. So that, yes, as long as we can make such a simple model, we know that simple model, I can say that we can learn, we can apply simulation gaming. And what is important is that simulation itself is just a simulation. But simulation gaming means that people join the game.
Enjoy.
So that, yeah, they can enjoy, but also they are not rational. Basically, for the computer simulation, we have to assume that they behave rationally. But especially in a disaster case, they will get in panic, or they will get something different, psychological aspect, so that they behave differently from what we expect. But we can reproduce this kind of situation in simulation gaming. So that in your case also, I think, yeah, it's a very important topic for simulation gaming.
The other question that I had is related to something, in all these disasters that we're talking about, they all have happened, earlier, sometime or the other. The only thing that is unknown is when would they happen. Okay, there could be disasters where the phenomenon itself is uncertain. Leave aside the occurrence. Okay, like the COVID situation, the phenomenon itself was not known. How do you really go ahead? Is there a way, is there a mathematical modeling with which you can kind of predict unknown phenomenon and so on and so forth?
Okay. Yeah, in fact, COVID-19 is really unexpected, but also for the disaster cases, it is a series of unexpected situations. We think that, of course, we assume something, but in the reality, we have different things. So this is related to what I showed here. Simulation gaming as a tool to develop how to think. So that, we have many things unexpected. But what if we know that how to think, they can think at that time. So that, for example, in case of disaster, okay, we assume that disaster happens at nighttime, for example. This, for example, a holiday, for example. So we have many residents here. But finally, disaster happened in the daytime of a weekday, so that many workers are not here. So only aged people or a housewife or house husband or some other people who are working here are here. But still, under this situation, they could think that what they could do based on this experience. So that basically, more or less, situations in the game never happen in the reality. You have to think, or you have to train how to apply these lessons to the reality. So I think this repeating this learning process could lead to this kind of situations, so that we didn't expect COVID-19 and we don't have any mathematical model. But for the community level, for example, they know that what they have to do, or they have to, it would be better to do like this way, but we cannot do it, so that they can talk among residents and they can apply, okay, in case of this one, or disaster earthquake case, okay, they did like this way. They can think that, okay, this may be applied to the real community. But of course, we don't know the answers. But still, we can have some references based on game simulation. So yeah, this is not clear answer, and because it's very hard question, in fact. But still, if we have a, I said flexibility, flexible thinking, but it comes from experiences. Without any knowledge or experience, we cannot be flexible. We have to have references, so that to attain a variety of references by game simulation, we can combine, okay, this situation we had and another situation we had also. And in case of real situation, they could think that, okay, we could combine these lessons learned and maybe we can try it. So this is, I think, what they can do. So that this is a training of simulation and game. But of course, as I said, it may not, it's not perfect, and we don't know whether it is correct. But I think what we can do is with game simulation is what I have explained now. Sorry that I cannot answer perfectly from your to your answers, but this is what I can say from this experience.
That's what, the phenomena which has happened sometime or the other, be it a tsunami, be it earthquake, be it anything, something else. You can always plan things. You can always, manage this kind of situation when it happens, because you're geared up to face it with your knowledge and the model that you have described. But things which has never happened, how can we really do it? How can we really handle or apply SNG in this? And that's what is precisely happening world over as a response to COVID-19. In fact, it's all trial and error, hit and trial things that people are adopting. Fine.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this simple model is a very issue. As I said, if we can make this kind of model, simulation gaming can be applied. But in the COVID-19, as you mentioned, this model doesn't exist. So in this case,
right.
Yes, simulation and gaming is challenging. But uncertainties around here could be managed by simulation gaming. But here, this is our challenge. Thank you.
Dr. Namit Gupta has some question. Dr. Namit, sir?
Thank you, Jigyasu, sir. Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Yusufu Toyoda. It was really a nice presentation. I have one query, that when we talk about disaster management, cultural and social and regional diversity play a major role in disaster management. So what would you suggest that how we can see India is a country with cultural diversity? So what would you suggest that how can we improve these SNGs, gaming, so that maximum attention is paid by most of the people in countries like India, which are having so many diversity? Sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, this is also a very important question. And in Japan, as you may know, it's a really, how can I say, mono culture, because majority is Japanese. And I have no, at this moment, I had no chance to tackle this kind of cultural diversity. But simulation gaming also can be utilized for how can I say, understanding other cultures. For example, people in some culture think that this is normal for them, but for other people, this is not. So the simulation gaming has also tackled this kind of situation. And in this simulation gaming, they could, in the game, they could experience some misunderstanding or maybe some confusion. But basically, as it is in the game, the situation will not get worse. They will not fight because they know that this is in a game. But still, by this experience, they understand that, okay, our thinkings are different. And finally, we can reflect this experience in the real world, and they can continue discussion that, okay, in my real culture, this is like this one, but for other culture, this is like this one. So I think that, we don't have, as far as I know, we don't have this simulation gaming, but we can combine this system to disaster management so that in the experience in disaster management, maybe they could have some confusion because they think that differently. And I think that we can do it for simulation gaming. But I have to say that, yes, simulation gaming for especially disaster management is still in the phase of, spreading, not popular yet. It's still developing. So that I think that you post it is very important for the future research. But I can say that, it can be also tackled by simulation gaming. But at this moment, I have no example about this simulation gaming. Thank you.
I welcome Dr. Nicholas Baku on platform of ISAGA. Do you have any questions, Dr. Nicholas? Dr. Nicholas, can you hear?
I think he has some problem with sound, or he doesn't have microphone.
Okay, so move forward. I invite Dr. Vinod Dumblekar, sir, for word of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Dubey. Dr. Toyoda, that was a wonderful session, made more wonderful by the interactions and the questions by Dr. Guru Prasad, Dr. Mandal, Dr. Shukla, and others. I think Dr. Mandal's question about how can you model something that didn't happen, I think that put us all, that shook us all up. And I think we didn't have an answer for that. COVID-19 was the first of its kind. I think we have words for that, such as black swan effect and all that. But in large part, the way you explained it, you said that learning through simulation and game was a social learning. That is, all of us learn together. We don't learn separately. I think that was an important conclusion through this community-based approach to disaster management. Disasters happen everywhere, but fortunately, Japan is well placed to be able to tackle earthquakes as a major form of disaster. India also has been prone to things like floods, cyclones, heavy rains, which we call cloudbursts and all that. We've had disasters also in other forms. Your emphasis on learning together, learning from experience, learning from scientific knowledge, that is the research knowledge of the past, I think that has enlightened all of us that we don't know enough. And only when we talk to each other and we play around and we interact, then we get to understand from each other and learn faster and better. When you said we learned also from trial and error, I think that was an important feature of every simulation game. That means you make mistakes, then you realize that this is not what I should have done. And therefore, maybe the next game becomes better. Therefore, corrective action, that's a way to respond to something that hurt us without our knowledge. That is an unexpected event, which we call a risk, or in this case, a disaster. Thank you all for the wonderful questions. And above all, Dr. Toyota, I think you took us all through a topic which we were not aware about. I mean, of course, we have had fire drills and all that, but planning deliberately for something that is routinely happening is about to hurt us like an earthquake, we've probably never done that. I think you have took us on through the process of learning, planning, and maybe playing it out, enacting the roles and learning from it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all the organizers here. Dr. Dhar and Dr. Dubey has done a wonderful work behind the scenes in getting all of us together. The teachers, the questions such as the question that Dr. Namit Gupta asked, the social side, the cultural side. India is a multicultural country, and I'm sure all the people here, what we see on the screen, everybody is probably comes from a different language, religion, whatever strata, which is quite the opposite of what we experience in Japan. Those questions were very, very enlightening. But above all, thank you, Dr. Raira. And as you would say in Japan, arigato.
Thank you very much. ありがとうございます。
Dr. Dubey, for you.
Thank you, sir. In the end, I want to inform you that the next webinar of the series is scheduled on 12th December 2020, and the speaker is Dr. Paola Rizzi, Professor of Techniques of Urban and Regional Planning at University of Sassari, Italy. She will speak on between utopia and uchronia, gaming simulation as a construction of the future. Hope to see all of you on 12th December. Thank you. Namaste. Goodbye to everyone.